I think misconceptions of self-love is that like people get self-love online really confused with like cockiness or self-obsession.
Hey besties, welcome back to another episode of I Missed Me. My name is Mafe. I am your host and I am so happy and so grateful that you're here. Today I am extremely excited because I have Isa Duffy with me. She is a social media content creator, designer, and clothing brand business owner. Isa is also the host of IKD Advice, where she shares all of her biggest advice on topics such as confidence, healing, self-growth, and mental health. So Isa, welcome to
God, thank you
I
for
Missed
having me. This is my first podcast feature. I've never been on someone else's podcast.
Oh my gosh, welcome.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I'm so excited to have you on. You give a lot of advice on your podcast. Obviously, it's called IKD Advice. How'd you start your podcast?
I started my podcast like a little under a year ago out of nowhere because I was like making advice videos, obviously like online, and I guess TikTok at the time, they didn't have the 10-minute feature. They only had the 3-minute feature. That was like the max. And I just felt like I was like rushing to fit everything I wanted to say in the 3-minute span. And I would get comments like, make longer videos or like make a part 2. And I was like, you know, it would be easier if I just made a podcast and made this episode like 30 minutes long so I could just fully elaborate on it. And I didn't really like market the podcast that much because I was like, I feel like the girls that like really like my videos and watch them religiously like will listen to my podcast. I was like, I feel like I don't need to push it that hard. Like if you want to go discover it and you want to hear the extended version of whatever 10-step video I made, like it's there for you, but like I'm not gonna shove it in your face.
You're always like on my For You page giving advice. What is your biggest advice when it comes to like raising your self-worth? Because I feel like that is a very big topic of yours of like having self-worth and being confident and like, you know, like standing up for what you want. So what would be
I feel like for me, when it comes to like raising your self-worth, I think it all kind of starts within. I think we as people, we place a lot of our like self-value in other people's opinions, perceptions, and like our relationships with how other people treat us. I think I raised my own self-value by taking a step back from those relationships and really realizing like, I think at the end of the day, the biggest opinion that matters is like what you think of yourself and how you feel in your own skin. And like at the end of the day, when you're alone in your room, like, do you feel like you're self-loathing or do you feel like you're content with who you are? So I feel like taking a look within and like breaking down your relationship with yourself and thinking like, okay, what are parts of me that maybe I don't like or I don't feel secure about, and like how can I work with myself to accept like the pieces of myself that maybe aren't the best sides of me.
How have you like personally like realized that you had to work on your self-worth? Like what was that time, like that experience?
I feel like I always knew I needed to work on myself because I think when you're young, I feel like I was like a bull in a china shop, that like life was happening so quickly and I was just like moving through it at whatever rate and like almost that like I didn't take any time to slow down and realize like, wait, who am I though in all of this? And I think when I was like in college, I was probably like 21, I really took a step back and realized like, wait, I'm gonna graduate in like a year and a half, and like, who am I? Like I was like, I think people go to college to figure out who they are, and I think I realized I didn't know who I was. So I started traveling a lot, and like even someone said the other day, they were like, you kind of disappeared for like a year. I just really started spending time with myself because I was like, I don't want to graduate and feel like that I didn't gain anything, that I didn't leave like a better version of myself.
Yeah. What are your main tips when it comes to, I don't know, a lot of people that listen to your podcast and that listen to mine, they listen because they're either going through breakups, going through heartbreak.
Oh my God, that's the biggest question.
And I know that you recently went through.
I went through a breakup.
How are you doing?
Oh, I'm good. Honestly, like I'm one of those people that like I think I used to not, but now I can compartmentalize change really well.
And I've seen that because like I personally do consume your content. I'm like, she's doing so good. And when I went through my breakup, I was like,
everyone
not
comments.
doing good. And I'm like, what?
All the comments are like, how are you not a mess? Like, are you good?
Yeah.
I just feel like we broke up on really good terms. Like it was very much like, hey, I think we've realized that like you're a really good person and we have a really great friendship, but like maybe you're not my person. And like I think long distance kind of prepared me for that. Like we did long distance for 9 months, so I spent a lot of time alone and a lot of time thinking like, this is what my life would be if he wasn't in it. Like our lives had already become pretty separate at that point, but we were like working overtime to keep each other in them. And then I think once we just realized like, hey, I love my city, I don't want to leave, but I still have respect for you. It was a pretty like, not easy decision, but it was kind of like a no-brainer. It was like, what's meant for us can't miss us. And we've remained friends. And we always say like, if at some point we, the universe thinks we're meant to be, we'll intertwine back into each other's lives. But for now, we're like, don't wait for me. Because if you're capable of feeling something for someone else deep, then, then we're definitely not meant to be.
Yeah. Was it like he wanted you to move? And you
yeah, we like kind of, it was like, I was like, I think you should move to Miami because I am biased. I think Miami is the best city in the world. He wanted me to move to LA. I tried the LA thing. I just couldn't like connect with it. And then he couldn't connect here. And like his job and his family's there and like my family and my job's here. And we would never make each other, neither of us wanted to be selfish and make the other person uproot their lives. Yeah. And I think also if we were meant to be, then one of us would have really wanted to make that sacrifice. Like I felt like the fact that neither of us did was pretty telling. We were like, okay, maybe not. But I think I've just been working on taking whatever energy I put into the relationship, especially in distance. It's a lot of energy to like keep it going, and just putting it into myself and my family and my female friendships and my content. Like I feel like pushing it onto my community online in a way. Like I just used it as like an outlet. I was like, great. Well, now I have more advice to give.
Yeah. Things that make you like happy and that are a part of your life.
Yeah.
When it comes to like people that are actually like heartbroken in bed and like literally have no motivation to do anything, what's like your advice?
I've been there. I think like if it's your first heartbreak, I think the first one's always the hardest because you've never felt anything like that. You're like, why do I feel like I've been shot? Like you feel like you're dying.
Literally. Because
you've never experienced like having something ripped away from you like that. But I think my biggest advice is to realize that like, if it's a tough heartbreak that you're going through, right? Where you're like crying in bed every single night, you're feeling like so low, so broken, so maybe like betrayed. It's like, your soulmate would never have you like curled up in bed in pain, crying every night, which I think is a big realization. And then also, anytime something leaves, it's so something better can enter. So you just have to see it as that like maybe the universe is clearing this out to make way for something else. As cheesy as that sounds and as hard as it is to think that, because trust me, when you're there, I feel like you don't want to think that.
You don't, and like that's the last thing that you want to hear. But
no,
like eventually, like you have to get out of it.
You want to hear like, it's okay to
he's
like,
gonna come back.
He's gonna come back. But like, I always tell people, I'm like, don't ever like wait for them to come back. Like you should never want them to come back. Like if someone leaves your life like willingly and removes themselves from it, or like does you wrong consciously, like why would you want room for that in your life? Like it's okay to be like, thank you, but no thank you.
Yeah. How have you like personally worked with your relationship, like with loneliness? Because I feel like part of the reason why it's easier to navigate a breakup is because you actually like enjoy spending time with yourself. So how have you personally worked on it?
I mean, honestly, I feel like that's something I've been experiencing now after being in a relationship for 2 years.
Was it 2 years long?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So we talked every day for over 2 years, probably like almost 3 years. We talked every day, I guess you could say, because we were friends before. So I've been navigating having that hole in my life almost, but I think I realized, I was literally thinking about it the other day, I was like, the universe is almost trying to force me to be by myself and not seek like, validation or happiness or love from somebody else, but rather from myself. So I've just been channeling all of my energy into like passion projects. Like I always say it's like really important to have hobbies. Like I love painting, journaling, writing. I've just been channeling any feelings of like loneliness or isolation into like passion projects, because I can, at least then there's something resulting from it that's like good.
What is your like personal definition of self-love? Because I feel like there's like a lot of misconceptions on social media. So like, what are some misconceptions of self-love that you think social media has like pushed, and what is your personal definition? I
think misconceptions of self-love is that like people get self-love online really confused with like cockiness or self-obsession or like being self-absorbed, or like people will be like, you're so narcissistic. And I'm like, why do we live in a world where the second a woman like likes herself, all of a sudden we're trying to like tear her down? I think that's a huge misconception, is that self-love is such a foreign topic. And like, it's so rare in the society we live in to see someone who like genuinely loves himself. And that's sad to me. Like, I think that's sad. So because it's so rare, when people do see it, they're like, oh, you like yourself a little too much. Oh, you're so into yourself. But it's like, no, I just accept the good and the bad in myself. And I think that you should too. Like, I think we all, I don't think that should be like a foreign feeling almost.
Now that you got out of a very like long-term relationship and you grow a lot and like you realize the things that you like and the things that you don't, what are those like non-negotiables for a next relationship that it's like, you have to have these things for us to like work out?
Yeah, I feel like I've had bad relationships that have taught me like, oh, absolutely, I will not tolerate that. And then my most recent relationship, you know, he really set a very good standard for things that I do want. I think non-negotiables for me is like, I think I could never be with someone who's not like emotionally intelligent within themselves. Like for me, like yelling during arguments or like cursing or like name calling, that will never fly. I think that's like the ultimate disrespect. I'm a very big like, let's have a discussion person. And then I think on top of that, I just wouldn't tolerate any man trying to like push me down in any way, whether it was comparing me to other women, or just like nitpicking appearances or behavior. I just think at that point, if someone's gonna be in a relationship with you, they should date you as you are, not get into a relationship with you and then try to mold you into what they want. It's like, okay, then go find somebody else.
Yeah. What are those like major red flags that you think that someone should like look at and like not?
Oh God.
Yeah.
There's so many. I think, major red flags. I feel like, God, there's so many that my brain's like listing them off. I think a big red flag is if they have a history of being a cheater.
Yeah.
I think if a guy has like a reputation for being a cheater, that's a little not great. I think also a red flag is like if they're very like controlling off the bat. Like recently I was kind of hanging out with someone and like spending time with them, and we were on a boat and I like asked my friend like, hey, can you pass me another like high noon or something? And he was like, I don't think you need another one. And I was like, oh, honey. I was
now
like,
I'm going to drink 3 more just because you said that.
We never saw him again.
Yeah.
I was like, because I just realized in that second, I was like, oh my God, you cannot date me if you think this is gonna like, just even like, it was like a little comment and I was like, this is not gonna fly. Just any form of like controlling commentary or like nitpickiness, or even someone saying things like, you know, you can't wear that. Or like blowing up your phone, like, where are you? Who are you with? Like, you know, I think there needs to be respectful boundaries of like communication, but they're not your parole officer, they're your partner. Like it should feel very mutual and not like, oh my God, I'm so scared. Like I'm sitting in the corner on my phone texting him because he's mad at me. That's not healthy.
You mentioned the universe a lot. Like how has been your spiritual journey?
Oh my God. I think my spiritual journey started also when I was like 20, 21, because I was so like lost. And I was like, I need a sense of something like greater than me to latch on to. Like a sense of just trust in like a higher power. And I grew up Catholic and like that's always like very nice, but I wanted something kind of for myself and something that isn't defined through like
personal relationship.
Yeah, something that's not defined through like the lines of religion. Like, so like this is what it is. To me, it felt like just putting my trust in a higher power, like the universe, and just knowing that the odds of me being here are slim, but that I'm here and there's a plan for me. Is it something that you
read or heard or watched?
I read a book, The Art of Happiness, which really helped me, but that's books about Buddhism, but it was just all about how the ultimate goal in life is to be happy. And that really like opened my eyes and made me look at things from a different perspective. And then I just kind of started going down a rabbit hole of like, well, what is happiness for me in like day-to-day life? How can I like relinquish control of every tedious thing? And I think it's helped me accept myself more too, and accept people around me more, because I'm like, well, the universe gave us this situation for a reason. Like,
you
how can
stop
we
judging people so much more?
Oh my God, that's like such a big one. People that I used to, I think, have a lot of anger towards them for certain situations or feel like super hurt by them. Now I just look at them and I'm like, I hope you figure out whatever like tumultuous feelings you have inside of you that like result in this. Like, I really hope you find yourself, because it just like, it makes you feel like you can't help but like understand.
Right. Yeah. There's just like so much forgiveness that builds up inside.
Oh my
like,
God,
yourself.
yeah. There's so much forgiveness. I think also like forgiving yourself too.
Yeah, that too.
Like, I know a lot of people that they're like have so much anxiety, like after a night out, they're like, oh my God, I said this, or like, oh my God, like I can't believe I did that. And I'm like, like we all do things and we all have bad nights or out of character moments, or like we grow and we learn. As long as you forgive yourself and you don't repeat the patterns and you recognize like, hey, that's not me, then you're good.
I feel like friendships, and I was talking about it in this past episode that I recorded, are like a big part of our lives. What are some like red flags in friendships that like people should look out for?
Oh my goodness. I think red flags in friendships, like I think off the bat, like a big one that has happened to me in the past is if the person like, they don't just want to be your friend, but they want to like take notes from you. Like they're almost like, look, and there's nothing wrong with being inspired by your friends, but it's almost like they just want to like study you and like kind of they idolize you in the friendship a little bit. That's a little odd.
In a weird way,
Yeah, because then it's like, is this genuine? Like, do you actually like me for me? I think another big one is friends who they are a friend to everyone, but they're also a friend to no one. Yeah. They're the type of friend to be like, well, she didn't do anything to me.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know. I'm such a loyal person that if someone hurts my friends, I don't wish bad things upon them, but I'm like, I don't want my energy to like cross over with yours in any way. And I'm like, if you're going out of your way to hang out with someone who did me wrong, like, you're probably not that great then. So I think those are some like tell all signs that are like very mainstream. Like I feel like those have happened to everyone we know probably.
What do you think is like the key to healthy like relationships in general?
Listening. I feel like listening, and also just like losing the ego. I think so many people, I see on TikTok a lot, people say they're like, well, me and my boyfriend, he recognizes that I'm never wrong, or like, and I'm just like, but that's not true. We're all wrong sometimes. And I think in friendships, it's really important to be able to like put your ego to the side and be like, hey, you know what? I'm really sorry I said that. I was in the heat of the moment. I don't mean that. Like, I'm sorry if what I said harmed you. That's not my intent. Or like just being able to take a step back and be like, hey, you know what? Maybe I should have invited you to this. I'm sorry. Like, I just think putting your ego to the side, and then also just like being like loyal to that person.
Like, and I love that you're like super self-aware. Like, what are the things that like in a next relationship, you're not going to do, or like that you can like work on?
Yeah. I mean, I think in my next relationship, something that I won't do is like, I think in my past relationship, like we were friends and then we were seeing each other and I was kind of like, hey, what's going on here? Which is so not me to like be like, what are we? But I was kind of just like trying to figure out like, are you in or are you out? Yeah. I think in a next relationship, I would just let things progress naturally. Like, I don't want to force anything or give like an ultimatum, or I didn't give him an ultimatum, but like, I kind of was like, hey, we're either friends, just friends, or we're like together, because I can't do the in-between. It's not good for me. So, but I don't think in like a relationship long-term with what I think I would want someone that like, they want to choose me off the bat. Right. They know like, oh my God, this is like someone that I value so much as a partner, and like they just immediately like grasp onto the idea of having me in their life, rather than like, well, I don't know if I want to keep her as a friend or what.
I love that.
Like someone that's just sure.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's like the biggest way to respect yourself and not to end up in like situationships or like those toxic things.
Oh my gosh. I like
we've all been on. And
oh my God, we've all been in them, but like I'll never do it again. Yeah. Like I literally right now, I'm so solo. I'm not like even talking to anyone.
And that's super healthy.
Yeah, because I'm just like, I'm healing from my breakup, and also at the same time right now, like I feel like everyone's in their situationship era, and I'm like, God, I would rather be alone. I would rather stay home. I can't do that. That's really tiring.
So peaceful. And like sometimes people confuse it with like being boring, but it's just peaceful. And like sometimes you're just not used to peace. You feel like it's boring, but like it's needed.
Oh, I always say I'm like people sometimes think their relationships are boring.
Yeah.
Because I think they're, maybe they've had a really chaotic relationship in the past that was a roller coaster, dopamines all over the place. But I think calm and tranquil is like nice. And also you don't want to be 60 years old married to someone on a roller coaster. Don't you want to be like sitting on the porch all calm, like hanging out?
Literally.
Yeah.
I think this was super helpful for anyone listening. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I want to close it off by asking you a question that I ask everybody that hops on the podcast, and that is, what does healing mean to you?
I think to me, healing means accepting every part of yourself, the good and the bad, and being hopeful for like the future, and also being open to accepting future versions of yourself that maybe aren't the best version of yourself. Just accepting yourself fully as a whole, past, present, future.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Where can people find you, listen to you?
You guys can find me on TikTok. It's Isa Duffy, ISADUFFYY, 2 Y's because the handle with 1 Y was taken. That's all my socials. And then my podcast is IKD Advice.
Thank you guys so much for listening. Guys. Don't forget to follow the podcast on social media at I Missed Me Podcast everywhere. Don't forget that I also have a clothing brand, nonameproject.co, to get your hoodie. Don't forget to follow me on social media at mafe everywhere. And I'll see you guys next week. With love, Mafe.